Hello, this is Con Emmanuel with another video tutorial. Today I will show you how to use Photoshop as a design tool, and we're going to create a flyer for a sort of Mexican Texan restaurant in Preston, and it's going to look something like that. In this particular example, I'll be creating the artwork in Photoshop, but except for the background. But you can obviously use your own artwork that you've created by hand, scan it in, and that saves a lot of time. Alright, so before I start, I just have to make sure that I've got all my necessary files. So in my TextMex folder here, I'll just show you I've got my background image, and I've got my blob, and I've got my outline drawing of my main character. Excellent. Alright, so let's go ahead and open up Photoshop, and the very first thing we do is go to New, and I will choose from the preset International Paper, because what I want is A5. This is a real easy way of choosing file size. And you can see I've got the dimensions there, I've got the resolution. I'll leave the color mode as RGB, but later on we are going to change that to CMYK to make it print ready. Some people start in CMYK, and that's up to them, but I'll just leave it on RGB. Alright, so there it is, our blank canvas, A5 size. We're now going to go to File, Save As. I'm just going to call it something like Con Emmanuel's TextMex flyer. I'll put A5 flyer. Put as much information as you can as the file name. Just really helps to identify it. And the format, of course, is going to be Photoshop, which is the native PSD format. And we'll save that to my folder on the desktop. Beautiful. Alright, now the first thing I want to do is go and open up some of those images that I downloaded from my blog. Now don't forget, the blog address is conartist.me. M-E. Alright, let's start with the background, and I'll just open them up one at a time. Okay, so this is an acrylic painting. It's just a fairly abstract dab of brushes, dab of paint I should say. Alright, so let's go and select that, select all. We'll go and copy it. I don't need that anymore because I've copied it. I can close it, and I can simply go to my A5 flyer and paste it. And I could just see what size it is. Look, it's almost the same size as my A5 canvas. That's the way I scanned it in. If it's bigger, you can always go Command T on your keyboard, or choose Transform from the Edit menu, and of course you can do all sorts of things like reduce the size, you can rotate it, but you know, I'm actually quite happy with the size that it is. Now with the background, I could choose to leave it as it is, or if I want to adjust it and make it look a little bit different, I can go down to the bottom of my layer palette, and this little device here, okay, that little icon brings up the adjustment layers, and I'll just move that across a bit so you can see. So the middle icon, if I go to something like, I don't know, hue and saturation, I can adjust the color, the saturation, and even the lightness. Where's the lightness? Hang on, let me just bring that down a bit. That's better. On the fly. And what this is, it's actually a layer which sits above my background in the layer palette. Now the beauty of that is that if I don't like that anymore, I can either hide it, I can double click it and make more adjustments over here, or I could simply delete it by dragging it to the little bin right there. but I'll just leave that there for now. So that's a really easy way of adjusting any layer by choosing the adjustment layers from here. Alright, so let's just say that I'm really happy with the background. The idea with design is that you bring in all the bits and pieces, all the parts, all the ingredients, you lay them out, you put them where you want them, and then you make adjustments to colour. It's a bit early to sort of lock in any decisions about colour with the background because it may not work with my other elements. Alright, so let's go and open up my next element, and that's the outline drawing. Now you would have noticed, why is that not letting me select it? That's better. You would have noticed that I've created this drawing with a pen, and I've used, pardon me, I've drawn the hat or the cap separate to the little character here, and the reason for that is deliberate. I actually wanted the hat to be separate so I can move it around, maybe flip it depending on where I want it to sit on his head. But I'm going to go ahead and I can do two things. I can use the Marquee tool, which is close-up view. Here we go. The Marquee tool is this one here, the rectangular marquee. I can use that tool to make a selection. I can just drag my mouse and trace a square around the character, and then again copy it and paste it into my A5 flyer, and I can then go back and do the same thing with the hat. You can also use the lasso tool, it's up to you. So marquee the hat, copy and paste. I'm just showing you the menu commands rather than the shortcuts. So what we've got here is we've got a layer for the hat and a layer for the character. And while I'm here, I might just start naming some of these layers so I don't get too far down the track. Background, actually, so it doesn't get confused, I might just call that textured background. Alright, this is Mr. Bean, and I don't know if you've worked it out, but my character is meant to look like a little Mexican bean, the bean that you put in Tex-Mex food, and this is the cap. Okay, now the first challenge with any digital painting is the fact that I've got all this white paper or this white area around my ink work. There's a few ways you can get rid of that, and I'll just show you with Mr. Bean. I'll just hide the hat for now so it's not in our way. The first way is you can take the magic eraser tool. Okay, I'll just show you what that is. Okay, it's in your toolbar, and it's this one here with the little funny starburst. Okay, that's the magic eraser tool. You can take that and you can simply go over to your layer and click anywhere where there's white. Okay, that's one way of doing it. There's an easier way, and that's simply to choose your layer, go up to your layer effects, which is here, and you just simply choose the word multiply. And what multiply does is it hides everything that is white. And I can do that now for my cap as well. I can just choose multiply. Alright, so now I've just got black outlines and nothing else. So we'll start with colouring the Mr. Bean character. And again, there's a number of ways you can do this. I'll just show you one way. We're going to choose a new layer for our colour work, and I'm actually going to call it Color Mr. Bean. So this is going to be the layer that has all the colors for my Mr. Bean character. Now, this is very important, so listen carefully. You need to drag that color layer, or the layer that you're using for your color work, so it sits below your outline drawing. Okay, and the reason for this will become obvious when I start painting or drawing. Alright, now it's tempting now to go to the brush tool. Okay, the brush tool is this one here. Choose a brush. You know, you can choose one of these ready-made brushes, or you can just mix your own. Look, I might just bring the hardness down, and it's very tempting to start painting your color. And let's say I want a fleshy color, just a bit pinker than that for Mr. Bean, and I start painting. Now the problem with that is that, as you can see, you can easily go over the lines, because you have to be fairly accurate. Okay, and you can make a real dog's breakfast out of that. So what I suggest you do is you go to your layer first for Mr. Bean, you take your magic wand and you select the areas that you wish to paint. I'm holding down the shift key and I'm just clicking with my magic wand the hands and the head area, not the eye, with the magic wand. Now this has been drawn in such a way that it makes it really easy to select these parts. But if you select the area first with the magic wand and then go to your color layer, I'll just press B on my keyboard to activate my brush. Now when you paint, it doesn't matter how mad your hand is, how spasmodic your mouse drags are, or your pen drags, you can now keep the color confined to its area. Okay, and so this is my first bit of painting of the Mr. Bean head. If I just deselect that and hide the Mr. Bean outline, that's what I've done. Nice and clean. Okay, so that's one way of adding color. The other way, of course, is you go back to Mr. Bean, you use your magic wand, you select, say, the belt area, and you go and choose your color. So I'm just going to click on the foreground color chip here, and let's say I want a bright blue belt. And instead of painting it, you can use something like the paint bucket tool. And you simply just click, you must go back to your color work layer, you click, what am I doing? This is, now why is that not working? Hang on, let me just try something. Yeah, why is the paint bucket tool not working for me? Something's gone amiss. Alright. Let's try the keyboard shortcut. If you go Option Delete, once you've chosen your color, if you go back to your color layer and you go Option Delete, that's better. It will fill the area with the color. So let's try that again with Mr. Bean's pants. Go back to the outline layer, click on the area that you wish, and we'll make him wearing, his legs will be the same color as the pants. Choose your color, and this time let's go for a ghastly pink or purple. Go back to your color work layer and Option Delete. Okay, so that's one way of colorizing your character. I'll just do his eye. So again, magic wand the eye area. Go back to the color work layer. Choose something that you think is an effective eye color. You know, something really close to white. Okay, and then go back to your color work layer and go Option Delete. And there you have it. So if I was to reduce, if I was to hide the outline layer, you can see that Mr. Bean is simply made up of different color areas on a different layer. And that's the typical way that most people paint a scanned drawing. So they've scanned the outline drawing and they basically just want to add color. So this is a really easy way of doing it. Further to that, if you decide that you don't like any of those colors, you can simply magic wand them. Okay, so you go back to your color work layer this time, you magic wand the colors, and you can go Command U, bring up your hue and saturation, and of course you can make adjustments on the fly once again. So if you thought, geez, the skin color wasn't quite pink enough, there it is, which is quite effective. Now, let's do the same thing with the cap very quickly. So a new layer for the cap. We're going to call it cap color or color cap. And this just means that this is the layer we'll be using, we'll be putting colors on. And once again, don't forget the golden rule. Place the color layer for the cap underneath the outline layer for the cap. It's really hard to see, but once we start colorizing, you'll notice that the black outlines must always remain on top of the color layer. Now, I could decide later on where to position the hat, but I might just leave it here for now, do my color work, and then I'll decide where I'm going to put it. I could, if I want to, I could change the position of the hat. I could go to the cap layer and I might decide, I want it to flip it the other way. So I can go to Edit, Transform, and I can flip it horizontal. So it's facing that way. I can rotate it the same way. I can even, if I really want to, let me just zoom in here. Oh, sorry. I can't do that. If I really want to, I can go to Edit, Transform, and choose Warp. Now this is really nice. If you choose Warp, you can actually warp it. You can make adjustments to the hat design itself after you've scanned it. So if you've drawn something that's not quite right, there's ways in Photoshop you can manipulate it, but I won't do that. Alright, so let's go and start colouring the cap. I'm going to make it really easy. I'm just going to go to my cap layer, the outline drawing, magic wand the key areas, the front and the back, and I'll go to my colour work layer. I'll just zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. This time I might choose, let me choose my brush tool. I'll choose something that's maybe like a bright red, orange colour, just to go with my background, something like that, and I'll start painting the cap with that colour. Okay, so it's great because I've magic wand the entire area, so it's really easy to paint the cap. And you can see I'm on the colour work layer for the cap. I'm just going to go and make that red a little bit darker now, just by going down to here, and I might just easily do a little dark shadow area. You can see that I'm just adding a little bit of tone, and if I go back to say here, I can choose a lighter area just for the front of it, just for around here. I could make the brush size a bit bigger. Okay, So that sort of gives you an idea of how you can create a bit of rendering, a bit of tone and form to make your hat look a little bit more rounded, more 3D. Another good trick is when you're using the brush tool, if you hold down the option key, it brings up the eyedropper. So if I want to sample any color that's on my canvas, the eyedropper will instantly do that. I'm going to do that now by clicking on the little red area here at the back of the hat, and I'll just make it a bit darker, and again with my brush just make the back end a little bit darker. And I'm not even blending it at the moment, just leaving it really simple. So let's go back and deselect that, Command D, and there we've got a 3D hat. And if I switch off the layer, you can see there's the colours there. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Now obviously I have to move the hat onto the character's head, so I want to be able to select both layers, obviously, because you can't just move one layer without the other. So if I just move the color layer for the hat without the outline, it looks a bit dorky. So we're going to select both layers, and you can use the Command key for this. Just hold the Command key and click on both layers, and then move it together into position. Oh, and before I forget, when you're moving things in Photoshop, yeah, of course, use the arrow tool, but also make sure that you switch off snap under the view menu. If you switch off snap, it means that your movements are more fluid. See how lovely that is? And I'll just position my hat there. Now, if per se I wanted to move the whole character down the A5 flyer, I need to click on all the layers, okay, that make up my character and move them together. Now there's an easier way of doing this. It's a tidier way. If you've got, say, 4 layers like I have that make up a particular drawing, you can group them together. The advantage with this is, I'll just show you, if you go to the layer palette and click on the pop-up, see where it says new group from layers. If I choose that, providing my layers are selected first, watch what happens. Okay, it'll ask me to name the group. I can call it Mr. Bean, and I can even give it a color if I want to, and there it is. All my layers have now been grouped together into this little folder. Now the advantage of that, of course, is that it tidies up your layer palette, especially if you're using lots and lots of layers. But even better than that is I can take my move tool and move the whole folder. Everything inside that folder moves as one. If I go Command T, I can rotate it, I can resize it, and everything moves together in unison, which is very, very handy if you are creating characters or artwork in a multi-layer fashion. Alright, now that's my Mr. Bean character finished. I'm not going to do too much work, otherwise this tutorial will go on forever. Let me just go back to the original outline drawing and close that, and I'll go and open up my next file, which is the blob. And again, same sort of thing. I can select it and bring it across, copy and paste, but this time I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm going to use the magic wand to click on the actual white area of my blob drawing here, my splatter. Now the magic wand, if I click anywhere in the white area, it'll pick up all the white pixels. And if I then go to inverse under select on the menu, it'll reverse that and pick up all the black pixels. Okay, now another way of doing that is you do it by clicking on the black pixels first. So I'm taking my magic wand, I've clicked on this huge black blob here, and then you go to select and choose something called similar. And Photoshop will pick up all the black pixels that are similar. Okay, so either way it'll work. Command C to copy, go to your A5 flyer, Command V for paste, and there you have your black blob. Okay, just the black pixels. And again, you can go Command T to bring up your transform option, and you can position your black blob where you want it. And you can put it in front or behind your character. You can even move the character somewhere else later on. Okay, so I'm just going to call that blob, and with the blob you've got different types of effects here which would change the appearance of it under layer. You don't want to use subtract. Color burn doesn't do much. What I usually do though is if it's black and I want it to be white, I go to the edit menu, sorry, the image menu, adjustments, and I simply choose invert, and that will turn it into a white blob instead of a black blob. Okay, and that means I can put some text over it and make it look a bit more refined. Okay, so there's the blob. I'll just leave that there because now we come to the crucial area of adding some text. So you can see how it's sort of taking shape. I'm going to type in the main heading of my flyer, which is the word Tex-Mex, and I might not do all the writing now, but we'll see how we go. So back to Photoshop. Now if you've never used the text tool before, there's two ways you can use it. Isn't it great? There's always two ways to do everything. Okay, this is the text tool, horizontal type tool. Don't worry about these other ones. Okay, the first way is you simply go over to your canvas, click once anywhere you want. As soon as you do that, you'll instantly get a text layer ready for you to type something. And then if the color is right, you type the word that you want. Tex-Mex. Now it's really small. Okay, you can just see it there. It's very small. But then what you can do is you can select it by double clicking it, or you can drag your mouse over the top of it just like you would in Microsoft Word, and at the very top here you've got all your choices. You've got your fonts, you've got your size, style, whether it's going to be sharp or smooth, and you can even change the color here into something else. Okay, and again you can move it into position. So that's one way you can type in text. I'm just going to delete that layer. The other way is, of course, you select your text tool, you choose all your settings to begin with, and this assumes you know what you want. So let's go and choose an old faithful, where are you, Arial black. Let's choose a nice big fat font. Let's go to 90, and we'll choose the color. Let's go for something complementary, like a dark purple or maybe a blue. Okay, so you choose all your settings here at the top, and then when you click your mouse, your cursor is nice and big because it takes on the properties of your settings. Okay, so that's another way, is you choose the settings first and then you start typing. Now obviously I'm experimenting with this because that still isn't the color I want, but it's just to show you that you can simply click on anywhere on your canvas with the type tool, and you can start typing just like you would in Microsoft Word. Once you've typed the word that you want, there's further enhancements you can make, like you can go Command T and you can reduce the size of your text, or you can rotate it and do other little tricks like that. You can also double click the layer for the text itself, not over the word but over here in the right hand side. If you double click that, you bring up this wonderful thing called blending options, and I'll just choose two for now. I'll choose the stroke option, and you can see almost immediately what that's going to do. So if I change the color for my stroke to say white, I've got a white stroke around it. If I then go to outer glow, change that to a dark black, and then start moving the spread and the size. Sorry, that has to be on normal. Sorry, put that back on normal. You can see straight away by adding a outer glow, you've now got quite a bit of a text effect happening. And you can do that in reverse. You can have a black stroke and a white outer glow. So that's just by double clicking the layer itself to bring up blending options, which is quite neat. And it actually shows you what the options are down below here. So if you can't see, that's what I'm talking about. And you can go back to them and make adjustments on the fly. So if you thought, geez, I want a fatter stroke, not that you would, or a thinner stroke, you can adjust it back over here. Everything is waiting for you. You can even bring down the opacity. So that's pretty good in terms of blending options and text effects. Look, I won't spend too much time creating my flyer here because this tutorial will go on forever. Let me just show you something else with the type tool that would help you. If you're typing, say, a block of text, and I'm talking about, say, down the bottom here it says grand opening 7 p.m. If you're typing something like that, what I tend to do is I use my type tool and I draw a text box by dragging my mouse and drawing a text box the size required to fit all my text. The advantage of dragging and drawing a text box is that you can type in your words. I'll have to make that smaller. Sorry, I should have done this before. This is another way of making your text smaller. You select it the same way you would in Photoshop and Microsoft Word, and we'll just make that a bit smaller so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, just make that a bit smaller. Okay, and I might even change the color to white. Alright, and let's zoom in here and start again. So, grand opening, and then I can put on the next line just by pressing return. So I'll just fix that up a little bit. Don't know what happened there. On the next line I can put Saturday the 14th of April 2013. Now you can see straight away that because my typing has reached the end of the text box, it automatically goes to the next line. And that's the advantage of using a text box, is that it contains all your text in the one sort of confined area. If I was not to use the text box and just click anywhere on the canvas and start typing, what's the difference? Let me just hide the character so it's not in your way. Let me just go back here. Alright, So if I was to type Saturday the 14th of April 2013, move that out the way, you can see that it's actually gone over the canvas, and it'll continue to go over the canvas as long as I keep typing, which is not what I want. It just means that I've then got to go and put my cursor in there and reduce it, so return it to the next line, and it becomes a real hassle. So text boxes are really handy because it does confine all your text to the box itself. So there's my new text, grand opening, Saturday the 14th, and I'll just move it here. I can make all the changes like before in terms of Command T. I can resize it like that. But if I go back to the type tool, I can then go and select keywords and change them. Like if I want to make just the grand opening a bit bigger, I can just choose those words, and there it is, it's a bit bigger. So every time you want to change the text itself, the words, the characters, you need to go back to the type tool. Okay, so if you make a spelling mistake, let's say instead of A you put an O, you need to go back to the type tool, select the character that's incorrect, and change it again. At the same time, you can make adjustments like size to fit it all into one line. While I'm here, I will show you something else, which is what I'm pointing to now. This character panel, this character window. If I click on that little icon there, it'll bring up this character window, which has other effects and other changes I can make to the text. You can also choose it from the window menu. There it is there, character. Now what this does is it allows me to make changes like, let's say I don't like the space between the characters. I can go to this little pop-up and I can reduce the character spacing, which in graphic design is referred to as kerning. If I don't like the gap between the two lines of text, I can also, again, select all, and over here I can adjust my leading. So I can choose a number that is bigger than the type size, and I can make adjustments to the line spacing, or what is normally called leading. So there's lots of other things you can do with character in here, but I won't go into it. But it's really important that if you are designing a flyer, to make sure that your text is legible. That's one of the golden rules. Let's just go back to the layer palette and put on Mr. Blob. Where are you, Mr. Blob? Mr. Beam, sorry. It's really important that whatever you're doing, the text is legible, so you don't want the blob covering that, and it sits in relation to its environment, to the surrounds, so the color matches, the type is legible, it all works in harmony, and that could take half a year to learn the skills of composition, essentially layout and composition. Look, I'm not going to go overboard with this because I haven't got time. I'll open up one that I prepared earlier. So if I go to, where am I going? Bill Bailey, we'll do that one there. This is a finished example of my flyer. And if you look at the text palette, I have got these wonderful little folders that I showed you earlier. So all my text is confined to a folder, the Mr. Bean character is confined to a folder, the blob is confined to a folder, and even the background. And folders are great to use in your layer palette because it just makes it all very neat. And when you do start exploring Photoshop in a serious way, you could end up with 100, 200 layers, and that becomes a real headache to sort your way around. So that's the end of the tutorial. It's pretty crude. I'm sorry about that. I got up too early in the morning. What time is it now? It's really early. Well, 7:51 a.m. is not bad, but I did wake up at 6:30, so forgive me for being a bit tired. But hopefully that'll help back up the lesson in class. So if you did forget something during the lesson in class, you can come to this tutorial and it'll all make sense to you. So thank you very much for watching, and that's the end of the show.